Good day, good day.
Coffee.
This is... I don't really know what to call this. This is just a simple conversation, I guess, podcast thing.
Test conversation.
Yes, this is a basically test conversation. Could everyone please introduce themselves?
Start with
You go
yourself.
first.
Guido,
You go first. Okay, I guess no one's introducing themselves. Hi!
Cool.
Okay, yeah, I'll start.
There you go.
Fuck it,
Hello,
yeah.
I am your host, Icatamus Catcher White Prime, otherwise also known as iCat. I am one of the D-Boy admins within the glorious mercenary company server. SSC, Silver Lake Security Corp. With me is the following people. Monty, would you care to introduce yourself?
Sup? My name's Keith. That's spelled with a K-E-E-F-E. E is silent. I'm practically the more competent squad leads in this mercenary company. That being said, I live in the UK, so I've never held a firearm. Please sponsor me. Buy my OnlyFans.
Okay, Guido, would you care to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Keto. K-E-E-T-O. Pretty easy. I'm just a filling role, usually. I don't really care what I play because I played too much Arma.
Aaron.
I'm Aaron. I'm the founder of the SSC Corporation Arma thing. I'm very tired.
Alright. So,
Nice to meet you, very tired.
So, as you can see, this is completely improvised. So, we're going to move into our first subject of this probably really brief podcast. Arsenals. Love them, hate them, full, limited, or no arsenal. So who wants to,
Depends on which.
Big
I'll go.
advocate of limited arsenals.
He'll go.
It all depends on what you're gonna do, in my opinion. For standard operations, yeah, I can understand a full arsenal, but if you want to do something specialized, a limited is probably the best way to go.
To be honest, if it were me, I think it's more of a best of both worlds type of thing. I think limited arsenals are quite underused in a lot of armor groups that I've personally been in. Only for the pure fact that limited arsenals are they're the more tedious situations in Arma, and there's a lot of tedious things that you have to go through in Arma. And when you're a Zeus and you're in a time schedule, and you also have either life constraints, it does add up to the time that you can actually make your op, and obviously you're focusing on the mission at hand. But honestly, I think if you can get around all of that, the best of both worlds being a limited arsenal at the start, but a full arsenal just in case you forget anything in the limited arsenal that you've had to make. But yeah, I personally want more limited arsenals.
Guido?
Yeah. Arsenals, limited as much as you really can. If it's generally like a main op, I would limit it at least with either a whitelist or a blacklist, just so you don't see everyone running around with thermal sights and bullshit like that. The ops that I play outside of the unit here, we strictly use limited arsenals just so we don't have people barbeing all the time. We also release our arsenals like days in advance before the op so that people can get their gear sorted before we even get on, so it's just plug in, play, and we don't have to sit around base at all.
That is nice.
However, that comes with a lot more structure in that group, and like just people knowing each other, so it's always different depending on the group.
Right, because one group could have a really rigid command structure, and the next group could just be hippity-hoppity. Bro, look at how many rockets I can fit into my bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
See,
Oh,
sorry. Go ahead.
No, go on.
Alright, well, in that case, I'll quickly get through my piece, and then we can go back to what was going to be said. Alright, personally, I am an advocate for either full or limited arsenal. Full arsenals are definitely more useful if you're having a more meme op, and it's like a meme side op, just improvised, you and a few buddies. hey, dude, let's see how many rocket launcher rounds I can fit into my backpack.
Impromptus.
Yeah, impromptus.
Yeah.
Like, for example, that one op where a bunch of German terrorists rammed a bus into a military checkpoint. That is a good example of a time when full arsenal would be really useful, because it's funny. Now, in a serious op, such as the Altian Liquidators, or, like, I'm just going to point back to Altian Liquidators as one of those videos, some cases it's alright, but in other cases you end up getting military barbied. And which one was it? There was a 3-hour op. I think my mic actually was off during... Well, it wasn't off, but it wasn't being picked up by OBS during that. It was the one where... Monty, it was the one where we botched the escort mission.
Oh, was that for Cerberus?
Yeah, that was for Cerberus, but I feel like full arsenal there was kind of useful, but also kind of not.
I mean, to be fair, with that mission, it did call for full arsenal because one, our unit was we were security contracted on that campaign on the tour. So obviously the Altician forces don't fund us, nor do NATO. Only thing that we get funded through was the specific task force Cerberus. And they, asked us to essentially just secure a perimeter as they're moving through the city. So it made sense in that standpoint where obviously we needed to have a full arsenal so then we can kit our guys out to what we needed specifically for the mission. I mean, fuck, I carried a goddamn RPK from vanilla, and it's just like first time I've ever carried a fucking auto rifle, but you know what? I wasn't okay. I was okay with it. I ran out of all of my ammunition straight away.
All right.
It was pretty tough.
So, I feel like those the Congo missions were probably ones that would have benefited a lot more from limited arsenal. Now that I look back. Like,
no, definitely.
As I scroll back through my videos, I realized the crippling amount of Army Barbie we all played, to the point where I eventually, I think, said screw it, and during the second op within that little campaign, just went pure Soviet.
The real main issue with a limited arsenal is that the fact that you equipment. It's not about the guns. It's not about the uniforms. It's not even about the backpacks or whatever. It's the actual equipment that you're carrying. So, for example, I'm talking about tourniquets, bandages, plasma, saline, or vice versa. All of this medical shit. They're the more tedious things that you've got to get underway because, depending on the situation and depending on the op, for example, if you're like, real sim, then you won't be able to carry vanilla GPSs. Instead, you'll probably be using a micro dagger, or if you have it in your mod list, a Blue Force tracker. It's just one of those things that you need to have. Not only that, even if you do make the composition for it, and thank God, 2.00 for Arma, made compositions like available to Zeus creators or editor creators. You can, drop place items that you've already made and already put equipment in without having to, go through that whole entire tedious process all over again. But the issue is it's the equipment that you're going to need for the job, and it's so easy for a creator to miss one vital piece of equipment. All it takes is one vital piece of equipment that's missing from your squad, and everyone's going to start complaining, and everyone's going to be like, oh, fuck, what are we supposed to do? I mean...
Hey players, I forgot earbuds. Enjoy tinnitus.
See, that's one of the issues. It's also a similar situation with, your A settings. Different units have different A settings, and sometimes the A settings that you set prior to the mission isn't even the one that you wanted. It's just one of those things that you got to handle. Arma is a fuck ton of work.
but it's a fun fuck ton of work.
The only reason why I enjoy Arma is because I have fucking retards like you guys to talk with and have fun with. Genuinely. Power of friendship.
So I had to bring Kiko
Alright.
back in. Oh,
Oh.
Scarlett, we did an improvised podcast. What?
Welcome to our podcast.
Improvise.
Yeah, no, I have
Improvised.
I have
podcast.
Beethoven playing, and we're currently talking about stuff, just armor related. What's your opinion? If you want in on this, go right ahead. What's your take on arsenals?
Very useful tool, except personal arsenal.
Okay, you know what? Can we just move into that subject quickly?
Oh, I forgot about the personal arsenal.
Personal arsenal.
That's a fucking bitch.
Like, I feel like that is more or less classified as a cheat mod. Does everyone else agree?
It is.
Agreed.
Especially if the, it is because you can use it anywhere, and it is a full arsenal no matter what.
Some armor player somewhere is going to get really salty that we're all agreeing that personal arsenal is a bad idea, but everyone else is going to agree.
No, okay, the only times where I will accept a personal arsenal is if it's in one of those, for example, like a liberation mission, or like, let's say, what is it called again? Anti-Stasi. Now, they're specifically anti-Stasi. Now, if you were in a campaign and you, for whatever reason, it didn't save and it corrupted your file, and you want to get back all that progress, without having to do all of that work again, because it is, again, a lot of work, then I will allow for personal arsenals, but only if everybody agrees that this is an okay thing to do. It's just one of those things that you have to have a personal agreement with.
With that, you can just take Zeus, put down an actual arsenal.
As I
Instead
said,
of having everyone
Anti-Stasi-
load in with...
No, the anti-Stasi mission, you can't add or can't edit anything into it. I haven't been able to figure out how to add any stuff into it. So you can't.
If I remember correctly, there is, if you're logged in as an admin on the server, you can potentially initiate a init code that will enable you to have Zeus. As well as if you... for some of the, if you have a certain add-on, I forget what it was. I think it was like Zeus Enhanced or something. If that is on the server, there is a add-on option that allows you to put a thing for whoever's logged in as admin when they use, I think it's Ace, because it uses the Ace module. If you self-interact, it will allow you to create Zeus, and it turns your slot into a Zeus slot.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
really
but
useful.
that's only if you have a server to begin with. What if you're a small... Look, there's a lot of small-time army units out there, and even, like, army units that are just made for friends and not really, for, like, public type of stuff. And I'm
Private
talking about...
is main. Yeah.
It's like five guys.
private. Yeah, like 5 guys. Like, private, private
So-
Zeus ops.
Five Guys
And
Burger.
How are
can't
you
edit
going
them.
to play? How are you going to play without a server with multiple people?
It's called having a port forwarding. Are you dumb? You've forgotten that?
Hey,
Whoa, but-
It's considered
Hey.
a server.
folks.
No,
folks.
it's not.
You can do it
Monty,
when
Scarlett.
you're local hosting.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, we good?
For limited arsenals though, it's since you can export them as TXT files, usually you can just set those limited arsenals up. It's really, it sort of sucks because like it depends on what you want. If it's an impromptu, usually full arsenal's fine because people either understand the concept and respect it, or just completely disrespect it, and that's where like rules and like moderation comes in.
Yeah.
Because, if it's impromptu, like, let's say, tonight I want to host an op, 5 people show up, I'm going to use 5 as just a base number because it makes the most sense. It's enough for a solid fire team. Hypothetically speaking, as long as all 5 of those guys understood, hey, this is the op, they could grab gear that is somewhat appropriate. It's improvised and it's not pre-planned. If it's pre-planned, you're going in with a lot more expectations, and by extension, you should be a lot more should be expected of you.
Exactly. Like, for an example, I in this other group, which has a more it's not rigid structure, but we have a very fine-tuned way of setting up our ops. We like have an announcement schedule, which doesn't change unless amended. Of which you sign up for the ops. They have certain times. They say the Zeuses, the themes, the map, the title of the mission, a description of the mission, and then we are given a TXT file to place into the editor if you want to do your arsenal beforehand. And it's useful, but it also takes a lot of work on the Zeus's part because they have to create that, and that could be as simple as removing all like MBGs during like a darker op, or it could be something as complex as only allowing M16A4, Tiger Stripe, and like the specific blacklisting or whitelisting. But you know, if you're putting in the effort to make that sort of higher tier op, then it's always helpful. If you're throwing something together, even as a completed op, you can always, change that as you see. That's the great thing about Zeus and Eden editing, is it's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
But my specific situation, the specific situation is that there's still a lot of armor.
It just doesn't.
Well, what I was trying to get at, Keith, is it will still work because whoever is hosting will be automatically be considered an admin, and it should automatically give them that option.
Yeah, but that's if you have the prior knowledge to that, and you don't. And most Arma players who, again, I'm talking about the nitty gritty. Most Arma players were coming from COD, arcade gamers, all of these like players, and who just stumbled into Arma for the very first time, and they finally understood how to actually join a multiplayer server, and also started playing around with the editor. A lot of these things aren't taught to you. A lot of these things aren't even on the internet, and a lot of these things, it's gonna go over your head because it's super complicated for the norm, and that's what I'm saying. Where, having these SQM files or mission files, and this is just the nitty gritty now, but Arma is an archaic game that honestly decides to have like blood sacrifices and blood rituals with pentagrams all drawn all over them because it is insane. It is an insane amount of work that you have to go through just so you can do one thing, and then even if, let's say, you get that one thing to work, it might not work anyway. That's the mention. That's what I'm saying.
So, those of you who have seen the civilian composition thing, like where you walk up to a civvy and they start talking to you, right?
Yeah.
One of the top comments was something along the lines of, "Thank the Lord, I don't have to type in 1,000+ lines of script just to get them to just to get one guy to say a single line, and then have his buddy respond." Is it that bad?
Yeah.
It's not that bad to make them say things. It's just how you do it is what matters. That's the thing about coding.
Yeah.
You gotta have like a really, you have to know what the code says, and you have to have like a good basis of coding in the first place to really manipulate Arma the way you really, really want to. And a lot of that, these guys aren't coders. A lot of them aren't. Some of them are, but that's very far and few between. And it's a godsend if you have anybody who's able to do stuff like that or understand that. But that my issue is that's why I'm putting up the fact and separating it. The general Arma player isn't gonna be able to know how to do any of the things that are being mentioned right now. Like, there's a couple of stuff that are probably gonna understand and they know how to do it, but like I'm talking about like guys who are like Liru, Remy, these guys are top tier
S+
Arma fucking they're triple S tier anime girls who like are idols and belong to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're triple S tier Arma players, and somehow, somewhere, they have managed to collate all of this experience into some kind of chaotic control. And not everybody is that. That's what I'm saying. And that it's also this fact that they have a larger community base. So more people, more information
knowledge.
is being shared. Yeah, it's just one of those things. What can you do?
Well,
yeah, and
that's
some
why
people
I'm
are
making the
great
point.
at coding for Arma. I have a
Yeah.
friend of mine who actually coded, because you can do slideshows, but have you ever seen a video played through
I have
Arma?
not. Oh, actually,
Never.
I know the only person who's ever done that has like published a video on it. It's pretty crazy.
What the fuck?
that's cool.
Is it a coding thing?
Here I'm trying to find the video because it's unlisted, and he probably deleted
Is it a
it from our
coding thing?
DMs.
Why would you
It's a
delete
lot of coding onto a slideshow.
Oof.
it? Well, I mean,
Oofy.
given the fact that currently it's a black screen,
Yeah, it's
I
fun.
guess just DM it to me, and if you
I
get
don't
permission,
even. I think he probably deleted it because
I-
it's unlisted.
that makes sense. Shame.
That guy made a full CBRN scale for like weaponized anthrax and radiation for an
Wow.
op chain that we did, which we did like 4 ops with, and then he just has like, you can reuse this code whenever you want. You just gotta like put it together using and then he starts going into mission maker talk where I don't know what he's talking about, but it does exist as code and it's really cool, but it's I don't want to even figure out how to use that. That sounds too difficult. He's made some
It's
crazy
tough,
stuff.
yeah. That sounds insane, dude.
He has,
Like I just figured out how to do an actual slideshow. Just figured out how to do that like a week ago, and it's supposedly that easy. And I was just like, how?
yeah, I
How
was
does
I
this
used to do
thing work?
slideshows for my ops when I did them a long time back, but I don't like making ops anymore. I did some stupid like fictional fronts between U.S. and Britain in Takistan, and it was interesting, but the BAF versus RHS, it doesn't always feel that balanced because you would shoot them like 20 times in the chest and not have them go down where they would shoot you once and you die.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Mod integration is one of the big things that people kind of miss. I mean, a really good example was Scarlett talking about it a few nights ago, where ODST, so like the Halo mod stuff and the
Trebuchet.
Star Wars mod stuff. Trebuchet, thank you. There are just some they don't they just don't
They don't
want
work
to-
well.
They don't want to blend, dude. And like so imagine this: you're either a clone droid, whatever the fuck you're playing as. You have a Star Wars weapon. You're shooting at a dude that looks like he's, practically in his underwear, holding like a fucking metal plate in his chest. That's it. You're shooting the A zone like 50 fucking times, and you're wondering, why won't you go down? And he shoots you once, you go down, and it's over. It's crazy.
Warhammer 40k is the exact opposite. Impenetrable tanks and one-shot kill to like everything, and it's why I hate playing Warhammer Warhammer mod for Arma.
It's insane.
See, there is something I found really, really cursed. I told you I haven't mentioned this obviously since this is the first iteration of this, I guess, podcast talk, whatever it is.
We'll
How-
figure out a name sometime.
We'll figure out a name at some point. Anyways, I mentioned a cursed concept called the Soul War, which is basically the CIS invades Earth. Now, with a mixture of survivable crashes, plus a good old-fashioned concentrated fire towards a Huey from the 3CB early US faction, I have successfully discovered that those things are much more tanky than than you're led to believe.
Hueys are strong, man.
I know.
The fact so many were shot down in Vietnam, crazy.
But anyways, like, it does eventually bring down the helicopter, don't get me wrong. And one good droid marksman could put a laser round through half of freaking Huey's crew, and then you'll actually have the Huey pilot, and then the round would go through the pilot, through the back door thing, and then it would kill half the squad in the back. So there is that. However, when it hits just the frame, it doesn't do that much damage. So there's trade-offs to it. Now, I guess in the end, stuff like cross-mod combat is possible, I guess. Moral of the story, you just gotta be really careful with what you choose. Because,
I mean,
Yeah.
40k v Star Wars is a really funny idea, but probably a really bad idea.
I think,
No, it's
think
not good.
that-
It's not a good idea.
Actually, 40k was a lot better than fighting against ODSTs.
So, Trebuchet is just broken when it comes to anything else.
It's because the armor values,
Ah.
which is why you also don't use swap against anything that is from Legion, because they're two different Star Wars mods. If you didn't know that, because the swap armor values are pretty much maxed for everything, whereas
Legion
for
is
Legion
balanced.
it's more balanced, but it's not balanced against projectiles, normal guns, because all of the Star Wars weapons are considered explosive.
Hence
Weapons.
why a hypothetical survival mission within this hypothetical Soul War thing would be practical for the humans. Because, sure, their equipment can like after enough concentrated fire, bring down all of our vehicles. However, we have the advantage of at least being on foot where we can, shoot them. Only problem is that the droids have unlimited numbers. We have only so many.
Pretty much.
By the way, for the survival mission, Keith, you were talking about just before the podcast, I think. Metro base would be pretty cool, like Chernobyl, even. You can do some cool stuff
I
with
could.
maybe trying to do something along those lines. I believe I've seen a couple underground areas, not in Cherno, but in other maps.
I can testify to that. I think there is one, and I think I've only ever found it. I think Tanoa once. I can't remember where specifically, but I know that they did have some kind of weird underground caves and jungles and stuff through Tanoa.
See,
But yeah,
I don't know a lot about Arma 3 map making,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm surprised there's not a lot more tunnel complexes. I assume it's like
reason?
there's probably a lot of good reasons for it. It's just I
Yes.
don't know the full story behind it.
You really aren't allowed to go under the ground in the engine they use. They don't like it. Usually anything that has an underground mod section, like through modded map making, sends you to the debug corner pretty quick. It just doesn't like it, so you actually have to build like a second, like it's almost like a prefab in a sense that you have to do with even making a section like practically 2 ground levels at the same time, and it just doesn't like it.
So you'd have to do something along the lines of like a massive structure, basically.
Yeah.
What you'd have to do, from what I've seen, and I'm not a mapping, I don't do mapping, but from what I've observed through the underground sections I've been through, usually they have the ground level just cut off at a certain point, sort of like a chunk error in Minecraft, and it goes down like a couple feet, and then they place a building directly in that position so that you can walk down that down that area. It's very weird, and you can't usually go over certain areas there.
For underground stuff, I've also seen people use the virtual reality map.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For anything that you don't need to actually see the terrain, because they also do that for like if you're doing space battles and you have compositions that can do space battles. I've seen that.
That would be cool if we could get it to work at any point. Like a
It's
themed
not a
flag.
matter of getting it to work. It will work. It's just a matter of making the actual underground
Making
map
it because you
itself.
have to some people do that type of stuff. Like you can personally make one of sorts, But as stated before, it's usually you have to put it over the ground, and like that's why a lot of the times if you see an area that's like you go under the ground of sorts, the entrance is usually rock.
Mhm.
One map that I know has a underground section is Madrigal from Optray.
But then
There
we
is a-
of Optray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the way they got around it with that map is they built a mountain around it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm gonna just mention this now. We've reached the 30-minute mark. So I guess now I know how these podcasts can go on for so long, right? So-
Well, it's just essentially just a couple of friends talking.
Another
so,
problem with
yeah.
that map's underground section is it's kind of buggy. It hates AI.
Yeah.
Like the AI
I've
walk through it.
I've played in that on that map in that area, and sometimes they will shoot you through the walls.
Yeah.
Usually, anything interior for AI in Arma is a weird area.
It's a big
you know?
no-no.
If you I remember Hound, D5, I think.
Yeah.
We were in a second group. That's how like he met me, and they were doing infantry CQB training, and like we got wiped out through a enemy on the second floor glitching through the ceiling and shooting us in a fatal funnel like 4 times, and they were just like, "It is how it is." I'm like, "No, no." That's not how breach and clear works. You don't just get shot through the ceiling.
This isn't Rainbow
Please
Six
don't get
Siege.
shot through the ceiling. Yeah, wall banging.
I've been loving
God.
playing 0 Hour though. That game's fun.
Oh, 0 Hour. I really gotta get that game.
$7
Alright.
on Steam right now.
Back onto Arma
Cowboys.
before we get completely derailed. So I guess
Okay.
I'll end us with one final topic here, because we've crossed the 30-minute mark. So,
Yeehaw.
hypothetically speaking, what is your ideal bad operation? Like, what do you see as a bad operation?
For me, one that the players weren't having fun in.
Agreed.
That's fair. Anyone have anything else to add to that, or is it just not having fun?
Yeah, there's some more stuff. Immersion breaking shit is really annoying. If
Yeah.
you're trying to sell us a theme or some form of story, and it's broken by someone wearing the wrong camo, the wrong they're using like everything that just doesn't make sense, or in essence, that sort of suspension of disbelief is broken. It can make ops not feel fun. You see people start playing Arma more like a game than it is playing it as like a character, a simulation. Instead of you see a MRAP and you're trying to stay away from it, you might charge it, which doesn't make any military sense if you're running across an open field. Another thing that sort of sucks is when vehicles teleport away, you completely survey a town and then a vehicle spawns out of nowhere, or like an infantry element out of what seemed to be nowhere. It makes sense if you had like a building that was locked shut, but you had infantry come out of it, but you have to do that carefully, and like you obviously can't be in the vision of a player seeing that.
Yeah.
And it's the same for despawning things, because in a couple ops I've seen that and it's like, oh, okay, well I don't have to worry about that.
Well,
Another thing that sucks is Zeus controlling meta knowledge and then just punishing a player for not knowing that they're coming into like an area with like an armored vehicle. Because I had that in a couple ops, watching videos back.
As Zeus, I always try to spawn shit out of sight.
Mhm.
Sometimes I miscalculate, and sometimes shit gets spawned almost right in front of people.
No, that's usually by an accident.
And it's just like, oh shit, what do? I can't delete them. Otherwise,
Just roll with it.
Yeah, just fucking roll with it. Go.
When I did Zeusing back in the day, I never spawned I'd never spawned an enemy asset closer than a kilometer away from my team, or any of the players. And with that as well, if they were armored or anything, like I don't give any. I never Zeus control because I've never really enjoyed the idea of like meta knowledge. The only exception to that is like, let's just say I have a marksman like up in a spot and he's not shooting at team players, even though he can clearly see them. I might control to get some warning shots to make them like search or look around, or in essence do that. But I will never take a killing blow or a severely maiming shot on a player or even just try to PvP, because it's just it sort of ruins the game for players if they're
downed by the admin.
Yeah, they're downed by someone who has meta knowledge. They know they're there, even if it's subconscious. Like, you will look a direction that players are, and it also is worsened if you have the mod that shows players' FPS, because then you can just see their FPS at where they're at.
Yeah.
See,
I would like to add on to the whole entire, what was it? What makes
Bad
a
op.
bad op?
Bad op.
If one thing, I mean, for most of my experience with Arma, I don't have a lot. I only have about 2.5k hours on Arma. Not a lot.
Okay.
But I've seen worse.
Most
Met
of
a
those are
lot of
AFK'd.
people. No, it isn't actually. Most of my hours were actually in op on the ground. But the one thing that I do detest is that when running on ground, if your leadership is
Terrible.
piss poor, and I have to be under said piss poor officer or commander, I would rather put a bullet in my own commander to save the rest of my men, because the amount of times where I've been told by a 12-year-old kid to just charge at the enemy without, taking consideration terrain, foliage, concealment, or cover, I just decided to go AWOL, shoot my commander, deserted, and rallied my troops, or the men that was under his squad, to say, look, this is what we're doing, this, and this. These are the steps we need to take out said objective. Done and done and done. Anybody have any questions? No? Let's go. That's it. In my opinion, leadership is an extremely important thing that seems to be overlooked, because most often than not, Arma 3 videos-wise, don't show, the amount of restraint, patience, and knowledge that fucking squad leads need to know. Yeah, it's one of those things that it's one of those behind-the-scenes things that no one appreciates until you become a said leader. And it's you have to have those facets of responsibility. You have to put... The thing is, a leader is really hard, because a leader needs to understand that you are responsible for somebody else's gameplay. And that is a very hard thing to be responsible over. That is very stressful. And, you don't want to disappoint anybody. That's the last thing you want to do. So you as a leader, you have to hold yourself accountable and responsible to your actions, and hopefully your orders can be clear, concise, and actually make sense. If you give me an order that doesn't make sense, I'll follow it, but with great reluctance, and I will fucking bitch at you.
The only exception to that would be if you're trying to follow a historical tactics. So I did a World War II op with a group of buddies recently, and I was SLing. So I used some of the structure and form that American SLs had for the period correct piece.
Clear.
And I loved doing that, even though it got some of our people hurt. But we didn't take any casualties with it, luckily.
Yeah, there's a line of reason that you can apply to things. If you're playing 40k or you're playing the Soviets, You are expected to charge across an open field with very little artillery cover because you're the Soviets or you're the Imperium. But if you're a modern U.S. Army charging across an open field, that better be because you're moving to another position and not because you're expecting enemy contact.
Yeah.
It better be covered by people for bounding, have smoke, artillery, or something.
Too. Or at the very least, there's someone keeping to the side or something to make sure. Hey, there's that road that's to our southwest of our position. There's a vehicle coming down there. Guys, lay down. Right?
It's not a hard concept, but it's one of those things. Again, it has to come down to the fact that you can, even though I mentioned leadership, simple tactics like knowing between cover and concealment and what kind of equipment you need to take as a foot soldier, as just a normal ground pounder who isn't in a leadership position, that also enhances your experience because there's a reason why that in every military veterans are looked up to is because they know what it's like and they're prepared somewhat for it. And they're probably one of the most, mental fortitude wise, they're one of the most, they have the highest willpower and mental fortitude to, take direct action, take direct combat. It's the same thing with Arma, I'll tell you what, my first 100 hours was trying to figure out how to fucking move. The next 100 hours was trying to figure out how to not flinch at getting shot at because all I can hear is crack, pop, and fucking, all of that.
That's just me and Tarkov. I don't know what you're talking about.
My first 100 hours was getting bullied by my first ever unit, so...
See, I played Arma for probably 50 hours in vanilla, and where I did Wasteland and PvP shit, and I from there was adopted into a group. I went through 2 years of being a mod for the group, a year of being a player, and then I eventually left that. Just sheer drama from a lot of things in that group. But a lot of my experience is in 1 to 2 groups, and then I used all of that experience to just hop units and just see how people play, and there's a lot of inexperience through most units. So I was glad I picked a unit that had good experience and good trainings.
Yeah. The one thing that I think a lot of people also forget that, at least in this community, is that you forget the C word, community. It is a community. And I'm not going to name any names, but I have met a few communities
Bad apples.
that don't, they're so bad. Let's say, command structure, not even existent. Their fucking commander doesn't even respond to any of the soldiers' requirements or fucking pings. Now, as a commander, you have a responsibility to make sure that your players are having fun, not just because I made the unit. I'm like, okay, if you wanted to do something like that, then go play by yourself and go fuck off, because Arma is an extremely team-complicated game. And if you haven't understood that because you've been playing too much fucking COD or some other arcade shooter,
even vanilla is
your
like
loss.
That, though.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, I should mention, vanilla is a lot like that too.
Some of the entry units too, that use basic ace and stuff, also have very similar, just poor quality. I know a couple people in TSB quality as well, and they have some great, Liru's stuff is surprisingly well thought out and just works. If you ever want to see how, you should organize structure, they do a really good job for their large-scale community.
Especially because Liru does that as a job, so his entire day is development or Zeusing. And he schedules ops for, weeks in advance.
Sounds like a heck of a job.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
He also for very high end ops, he'll do where he gets paid, he does a donation goal of sorts for it, and for one of his current ones, it's $1,000
for an Arma op.
for an Arma op.
Is how it is.
Wow.
Because-
No, but
He's been on a bit
no,
of-
but you can understand. You can understand where
That-
he's coming from, though, because
That's
yeah,
because
he's-
it's his job.
business.
And
Yeah.
it's his job, and if he's focused, because a lot of the times he's creating things from scratch. Speaking of, he had to go into, when he did a stalker op, he had to go into the mod, into the coding and fix it himself because it was broken. And like, because of the fact he has to focus on those ops because they're one of his projects, he's not making money from creating other things because a lot of his time is focused on that one op.
Wow.
So
Stalker op.
remember, he has to make money. And also, and also on a side note, if you're joining today, feel free to load in.
okay.
All right.
I
Oh,
guess
we're good to
that's,
load. Cool.
So
that's a
I
start.
believe we have reached the end of our podcast. I thank everyone for voicing their opinions.
If you use a caliber under 7.62 by 51, you're crazy. Yeah.
I love 5.56 because I love M4s because I was
Sorry,
trained on
7.62 by-
M4s.
Okay.
By
No,
39.
that's a topic for another one.
That's a topic for
Yeah,
another
that's a topic
day.
for next time.
We'll deal with that when we get there. So, thanks
For next
everyone
time.
for
For next time.
participating and speaking. Thanks everyone for potentially watching if you've gotten
I'll
this
see you
far.
on in the inside.
Bye bye.
Yep, skedaddle, skedoodle,
Before we
Keep
go,
playing.
it's normal mod pack, right?
skedaddle, skedoodle.
Heard
It's
mod-
their
Keep
mod
playing
pack.
Arma.
It's their mod pack.